her and get through them. I see that Kim is online. I guess I'll officially call to order the Central Virginia Regional Housing Partnership Executive Committee for the Wednesday, October 23rd, 2 p.m. meeting. And I guess first thing, if we can we vote Kim in, so if we need to take a vote, she'll be able to participate. Kim, can you just state your location and purpose for joining remotely?
Yes, Kim Highland. I'm in Fluvanna County and unable to attend due to the commute distance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to allow Ms. Highland to participate? So moved. All right, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. So Kim is in the meeting. And that'll take us to a roll call.
Nick Galloway,
Present.
Keith Smith,
Present.
Emily Dreyfus, Kim Highland,
Here.
William Park,
Here.
Colette Sheehy, Shayla Washington.
And we'll go to public comment. Is there anyone here that wishes to give public comment? Online? Close public comment. And our consent agenda in the packet for the minutes of the July 24 meeting, as well as the monthly financial updates. Any questions or edits? Ruth, any comments you feel like you need to make about the financial updates?
Just to keep an eye on the spend down, but we do have about half the hours that we had budgeted for the year left, which is a little ahead of schedule.
Got it.
But in part that is due to the way we were tracking the summit and housing study personnel hours to work on those. They were previously being charged directly to the RHP budget. Now they have separate budgets. And so they're even tracked separately starting in, I think, September.
Gotcha. Is there any payback of the summit stuff that should be covered under the summit budget?
I don't have a good way of tracking those hours in reverse, so no.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion, sir. Okay, is there a second? Second. Second. Yes.
Keep it going.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions? All right. We do not have any presentations today, so we're going to jump right to new business and review strategic plan goals in the fiscal year 26 work program. And Ruth is going to handle the progress of some of the goals, and then we'll conversation about this stuff.
Yeah, all right, so this is going to look very familiar. I am going to go through what our strategic plan goals are for the RHP. And again, this was developed through the process with the Spark Mill a few years ago. We have 4 primary goals for the RHP: equipping stakeholders for success, strengthening the affordable housing ecosystem, deepening and sustaining collaboration between affordable housing stakeholders, and creating sustainable infrastructure. What I want to do today is look at those strategies and what progress has been made towards each of them. And I've gone ahead and just kind of color coded where I see them being to get some feedback from you all towards the individual strategies that were identified in the strategic plan. So in particular, for goal 1, which is equipping the housing stakeholders for success, we talked about creating a toolkit of affordable housing policies, models, and case studies that stakeholders can use in their planning and zoning process. This is something that our AmeriCorps Vista worked on last year. That was Davy Sell. She put together that policy matrix of all of the different policies that our localities have related to affordable housing, whether it's in their comprehensive plan, in their zoning code, or other policies that they may have. And we have published that on our website. Now, I marked this as partially complete because there were a number of other things identified here other than just looking at policies. My question to you all is, should that be marked as complete? Do we want to do more in that area? If so, we need to look at, when is that going to be programmed in? And same thing with doing research and collating a list of resources and relationships that support and fund affordable housing initiatives. That is something that Caden, our AmeriCorps Vista, is working on this year. And that is nearly complete and should be coming to you all for review sometime in the next couple of months.
Ruth, have a comment.
Yeah.
On bullet point number 2, a lot of that information Virginia Housing's going to already have.
Yeah.
Right. So I would think you could piggyback a lot.
Yes.
From that.
Yeah. And we're looking for like hyper local resources that may not be things that Virginia Housing is aware of. The regional housing dashboard was again something our Vista worked on last year and is published. And the feasibility study for a regional land bank is not something we have started yet, and I currently have on tap for next fiscal year, should we have funding available.
So the affordable housing policies part of that, you're saying models and the case studies.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have models out there? Or case study, do they?
My question to you is that valuable for us to be spending time on right now? It might be valuable in the future. I mean, we have a toolkit that was published before the strategic plan was put together. And was it 2019?
I mean, it's all together that we were trying to be this place where it's like a one-stop shop where you can come here and see these things. I just don't know that.
I mean, maybe we need to package what we have in a more accessible way.
What's a model look like now? When you say model, what exactly is that?
Those are not my words, unfortunately. That's from the strategic plan.
Yeah, not to put you on spot, but I'm just saying, okay, is there a financial analysis model or whatever, which everybody who does this kind of has their own model or way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a little bit too much in the weeds, in my opinion, for what we're trying to do here.
I think so.
Case study to the extent, and again, that's why some of you get from Virginia Housing, you can show some case studies where they, use low income housing tax credits, opportunity zones, historic tax credits, whatever it may be. And, some of the, like Novograd, big accounting firm, they have some of those case studies that are already on lots. And Mike, back to your earlier comment about hyperlinking into something else, that might be an easier way to do it.
Yeah, we, through our communication strategy, try to piggyback on things that are already out there and make sure we're sharing them. And sometimes that looks like doing a blog post write-up of like, kind of like an analysis of what the case study is so that it's a little bit more digestible, and goes into maybe there are some other resources out there that people want to look at if they're interested in that particular case study. And sometimes it's just sharing information that is available through the quarterly newsletter. So we're trying to attack that in a different way is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the other question I have on that last bullet point, the kind of methodology that we're doing, what exactly, is this more of a market study to see if there are groups that want to use a regional land bank, or what exactly are we trying to do there?
That was a build off of Charlottesville already considering a land bank specific to Charlottesville, and a discussion that was had amongst the partnership of should we be looking at whether a regional land bank would be desirable for all other jurisdictions that would like to join it. So it would really just be doing some of the connections with our other rural local governments.
Talking to the other governments.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we could find, we can benchmark against existing feasibility studies and bring forward almost like a scope. Like, is this reasonable? Do you guys want to get more information? Do you want a more technical analysis? It was really like an idea to figure out, do we want to just have Charlottesville have its own bank and then maybe Albemarle have its own bank someday, or do we want to look about the potential for a regional coordination on that?
Okay. You might just clarify that in there to say, with level of legality, or something, because it wasn't clear to me exactly how deep the feasibility study was.
Any other comments on,
Well, I certainly like the idea of trying to pull in things that already exist, so we're not recreating things that aren't possible, because that just saves on the staff and the budget. And if that got us maybe faster to the feasibility study, that might even be a higher priority than some of those other elements. My opinion.
Do we know where the city is with its land bank process?
Council considered it in a work session a week or two ago, so they're very close. I don't think they did final approval, but they might.
But they're in the final line.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe the thought is it's going to be a separate nonprofit, 501c3, so it will need some time to get legs at the point board and all that. The only other piece here that really stands out to me as being very timely is the possibility of helping in the Albemarle County zoning process through the AC 44 comp plan, and I don't know how that could fit, but I wonder if there's a way that the planning commission could be helpful in that.
Well, feedback for sure. I mean, there's going to be a housing chapter, so there are going to be 10 chapters now, and one is going to be housing. Well, I don't know if that's, I think the first 5 were coming to us. They just released a calendar to the planning commission last night. As to when those chapters are coming forward, and cannot remember if housing was one of them. I don't think it was, but like they're gonna do development area, rural area, actually just forgetting those 3 chapters. But I mean, input, feedback, trying to protect that folks participate in that. Because right now it seems like it's just political advocacy that's hitting it right now. Versus practitioner advocacy, developers and people that work in the space.
Yeah, and to that could be something that our staff, as like the public comment for that particular chapter comes up, or that part of the zoning comes up, we could be pushing it out to the RHP members to encourage folks to spend time giving feedback.
Just talking about our growth policy, we got into a little bit of affordable housing talks, and comments being made, so it's definitely relevant.
So going back to those 4 bullet points, I think what I hear Ruth is asking, where should I spend my time?
yes,
So I think, my opinion is completing the first 3 bullets so they're full. And then the land bank, I think we wait to see what Charlottesville comes up with, and then kind of take it from there. Maybe they'll create the template that works for across the board, and they may do the work for us. I think since it's relatively close for approval, we probably will just leave that bullet point alone a little bit for the moment. Is that what you were asking? Where do I put her? Okay.
yeah, where do I budget my staff's
So to
time?
complete those green dots that aren't yet complete, we're not looking for recreating any, this is more gathering.
Right.
Collating, gathering, creating.
That sound reasonable?
It's fine with me,
Good,
that's why I'm asking for feedback. All right,
next one.
on to goal 2. This is strengthening the affordable housing ecosystem in the region through education and advocacy. And the strategies that were identified are develop and deploy an education strategy to address common community barriers, develop and share a community library of resources that strengthen affordable housing, amplify messaging that illustrates the positive impact of strong affordable housing in the region, and leverage a housing dashboard to engage the community in affordable housing conversations. For the housing dashboard, like I said, that's published. That was also identified in goal 1. I don't know to what extent the community is aware that it exists. We have advertised it on our website and through the CVRHP newsletter, but not other channels. For the goal of amplifying the messaging around affordable housing, we do that through a variety of mechanisms, like the full partnership meetings, helping with discussion groups. I'm not entirely sure what the vision for this one is.
Wouldn't it make sense there to have, again, if you've got your dashboard somewhere, and I'm kind of massaging goal 1 and 2 or putting them together, but is there a way, going back to your case studies, there's a lot of information out there that shows how the affordable housing is a positive economic development driver in the area. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. I can't tell you over the years, 35 years of doing this, and it's changed a lot now, but where literally I would go to a rezoning and get run out of town as the bad guy, you know. So it's nice to sit in here and be the good guy once, but anyway, again, there are a lot of case studies out there where, you know, Virginia Housing Forward or VHDA or some of the other ones that they've actually done an empirical or quantitative analysis to show that it is positive to the locale.
Yeah.
And I think that message needs to get out there more often.
Especially to local elected officials
Yeah, absolutely.
or appointed.
So
You
with,
know, it's always, well, it's schools, it's roads, it's this, and you know, that's just not true so many times, and that's what the studies have shown.
so would that be going to meetings and doing presentations? Is that packaging materials and sharing them?
It's probably all, I think you gotta find the material first, right? And then package it, and then it's on whatever website you use, and then to the extent you have these meetings that you're talking about. It's, you know, instead of just anecdotally maybe saying, hey, this is good for the community, I mean, to the extent that you've got studies that actually show it and put numbers on it. And show that it's positive as far as the tax base, I think that's a good thing.
And we could start at the partnership quarterly meetings, we should have electeds from each of the counties there. And that's supposed to be the through line back to the whole board that they are representing. And then we can potentially have conversations about how it could go beyond just sharing with the electeds that are on the partnership. Or the planning commissioners that are on the partnership.
And that kind of ties in with that 4th bullet point, right, with the dashboard and everything, I mean, where are we putting it?
So I've circulated this a bunch of times. Back in 2011, Virginia Housing did the effects of housing, a white paper, the effects of housing on the local economy. They have not, in my communications with them, they have not redone this since 2011.
Well, but then over the last year, because one of the governor's big pushes was, and I think they got Chamura, I think I say it right, Chamura
That's right.
Econometrics or whatever there in Richmond. They did a pretty thorough study to show the linkage between economic development and housing. So again, I'll refer to.
I've got it up. Yep, it's the 2023 Chamura study.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And it's fairly detailed. I've been through it, so but that might be a good place to start.
Can you send it out, Christine? I'm not seeing that.
Of course. To everybody here or?
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
And maybe that could go in the meeting packet to the next full meeting too.
Because what we're building towards is maybe doing one that's local to the 6.
Yeah.
And that could be a good, as Keith sent out for the 2011 one, it could be a version that shows what we're shooting for, but more specific to the TJPDC program. What's the title of it? State, what is Stacy saying there?
It is Housing as an Economic Development Strategy for Virginia. And the consultant was CHMURA, and it was done for Virginia Housing,
Thank you.
of course.
How often
Go ahead, I was just reading Stacy's message.
how often do staff members from TJPDC meet with local officials? Because I'm wondering if that's a possibility to sit down with some maybe like members of the Board of Supervisors, planning commissioners, just offering that and sharing that study, sharing sort of some talking points It does seem like there are still people who think there's an overblown problem.
Well, I'll say this, and then Christine can say what she wants to say. To take some of the flack from the TJPDC. But as earlier happened just with our body, some folks started to feel, you know, Kim and the rural discussion groups built out of feeling like housing was only being discussed as an urban thing, which meant Charlottesville out, even though most of them are not urban. So when you go to these other places, there's always this line of having to be, I am a resource for you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Because the political dynamic of those 6 counties is very different than what they want to do. So when Keith and I go and have done our roadshow in the past, like in front of Greene County. How we present that is very different than, well, how we present it didn't change, but the conversations that we had were very different in Greene County than they were in Charlottesville, than they were in Nelson County. So it's a matter of trying to just walk the line of saying, here's information that should be relevant to your county. If you need help or you need support, we're not here to dictate policy to you. We're here to try to say what you identify your policy and then we try to respond and help you do it. So we have to be a little bit careful in advocacy. Given the ramifications of each county and their membership in the TJPDC at large beyond the regional housing partnership. How did I do? All right.
Yes, I would add to that, more so staff is having very close communications with staff leadership in our jurisdictions, not with their elected officials directly. It depends on the jurisdiction, whether their preference is for us to be approaching their board without approaching them instead. So this would be something like I have quarterly and in some places biannual meetings with CAOs in each jurisdiction. We have mayors and chairs meeting quarterly where the governing board chair and the CAO are in the meeting. And those are the types of meetings where we'll bring forth items like this, like bring to your attention, information sharing. Have you seen this report? You know, so they can then take it back to their own teams.
And then at the commission level, when the TJPDC commissioners meet. Like a lot of time, like we do a roundtable here, we do a roundtable at the end of that. Oftentimes I or Keith will bring up, because Keith's on the commission, we'll bring up partnership items, because that's an opportunity to share that with folks that aren't necessarily appointed to the partnership. In similar fashion that they give updates from the regional transit partnership or other things that are relevant to the county. But again, that's more. Here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're not really trying to influence their view or their policy view. We're just trying to say that this could be helpful. I think some would rather be a little bit more advocacy driven to a point of view. But that's just a political dynamic that I think the TJPDC doesn't want to get caught in the middle of. The electeds would rather probably be the better people to be trying to do that. Me saying, oh, Greene County, you should be pro, or Fluvanna County or whoever. Or Jesse in Nelson County, he's very point blank and direct to folks in other counties about affordable housing and what that means in a rural area. But that's easier for us to take on because it doesn't bring it's just a different political dynamic than in Christine's role. Now, that being said, I like the idea of doing something to the full partnership. I like doing the updates to the commission. But our ability to go out, like Keith and I doing that roadshow, because that has been requested or brought back up by others that we've already been presented to. That they thought that was worthwhile, and since there's new members on their board, if we could do that again. And I think that's a chance to educate now the entire board if we get their agenda time. And that's, you'll see some of what we have done in the past. Keith provides data, and then we talk about the partnership, and we can get into some of this stuff.
Do you share success stories? Here's what's worked in similar areas.
We try to be we will try to be specific to their account, like Keith will hone the data to Nelson County. And then if like I would right now be cheerleading what Kim and the others in the rural discussion group have been doing to all the rural counties, because of the discussion groups we put in place, that's the one I feel like has actually achieved what it was designed to do. And I think they're getting some good good stuff out of that.
And one of our members are actually doing that in our camp, in Fluvanna County. 125, 60% AMI apartments. So yes, we would explain. We try to tailor it to that individual
Yeah,
person.
that makes sense.
And then on the reverse dynamic, you've got, oh, well, only people doing affordable housing are Charlottesville and Albemarle. And are we doing affordable housing? So it's like, are we? You know, what's the impacts of that? So it's just a very different, you think we're focused on it, we maybe have a different political view of it, but what are the actual results and what education do we need
Mhm.
to actually achieve what we say we're trying to achieve? Are we doing the right things or not? So it's a different attack for Charlottesville and Albemarle, I think,
Yeah.
in some regard.
And I think this report in particular is not that it's not valuable to urban jurisdictions, it's very valuable to rural jurisdictions.
Mhm.
Who are hyper focused on economic development, job creation, and making sure that they have. You know, and what that means as far as bringing in industry that requires rooftops in order to bring the jobs there. So I think this is very important to be sharing those things.
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is the local, and that you jump in if I'm off base here. A lot of the local elected officials think they understand what the housing issue is, but they don't really understand it. And to the point, you know, just talking about Nelson County, year over year, Nelson County, first 9 months is up 10%. There are the median sales price right now is 411. Last year, at the first 9 months, it was 375. I don't think they understand the climbing of the price. By the way, you guys are in that, actually Charlottesville one is at plus 16%, right? You guys are at 7.5% year over year. Down 1% sales.
So for this, develop an employee education strategy. I feel like we've hit that, and that doesn't sound like a lot of staff time consumption.
That's sharing resources that already exist. That's not creating new studies or scoping out new initiatives. It's
Then
just making sure as things become available to the public that we are broadly sharing them within our region.
and then number two seems to be an ongoing effort. You always want resources that are there. I don't know if that ever gets actually full, but. And number three is contingent on everybody, but we just kind of talked a little bit specifically to electeds. Without it being like throwing fire on something that's like the rent control flared up in Albemarle. And it really was, you thought we took a vote on rent control. And, you know, maybe I'm undermining or undervaluing or under concerning just saying the phrase rent control from the dais, I suppose. But that's not what we did. And the flare up was, oh, they took out more with rent control, and they decided they want. If you listen to the meeting, that's not happening. So these conversations should be able to come up in a way that doesn't sound like alarm bells going off, and it's just dialogue and conversations. And electeds need to be okay and competent enough that we don't have to agree. We can have disagreement conversations in public amongst our region without us feeling like it's an argument. It is a discussion of where we're at.
Mhm.
And I feel like at the commission level, when we have those kind of conversations, that occurs. So we all should have faith that electeds will be able to handle, you know. We're not gonna start, I'm not gonna start trying to dictate to Louisa County what they should be doing, but I certainly am not gonna be afraid to share opinions of how affordable housing has a strong economic impact. For what it's worth, sorry, Ruth?
Thank you. It was a good discussion.
Thing that strikes me is these are very positive, and I'm generally very much in favor of positive goals. But I think what most seems to resonate with people is the like the horror stories of what's happening. And data resonates with some people, but the human interest side, and I think painful is the increasing vastly increasing numbers of homeless people, seems to be, that does seem to have opened eyes for a lot of folks who thought this was a very small problem affecting a very small number of people, but knowing the majority of people on the streets last addressed was in our community seems to have helped some people realize, like, we should be doing more, taking more responsibility, and this needs to move quicker. We can't keep moving slowly and watching places like Cavalier Crossing get shuttered for affordable housing. You know, we have to be more proactive. So if there are things TJPDC can do to help with the urgency aspect, I think that would be really useful.
Very good.
Okay. Have to think on that one. Goal 3 is deepen and sustain collaboration between the affordable housing stakeholders. And our strategies were engage stakeholders around a shared regional vision. I think we're doing that through the RHP. Leverage a calendar of events to address timely and pressing issues and build connections. We do have a calendar on the RHP webpage that has local and regional events. And we try to share those through the quarterly newsletter and some more timely updates. We have facilitate meaningful cross-sector connections. I think that is happening through the RHP organically through board members and people interested in attending, but also I think the discussion groups this summer helped with that, bringing additional people in to have these discussions. But I think there's a lot more room to do more work in that area. And then develop robust messaging with all stakeholders to inform, invite, and engage. I think the newsletters are doing a good job, but again, I'm wondering how much this should be going out to a more broad audience than the folks on our news list.
So the last one, what do you recommend? What makes it more robust?
That's the real question for me there is who is our stakeholder audience that we're trying to share the information with? Because if we're trying to target every single citizen, make sure that they're aware of what's happening in the region in terms of affordable housing, we're nowhere close to doing that. But that may not be the goal. Christine, you look like you had something to say.
I wonder if this is thinking out loud, I haven't thought about it before I'm saying it, so I might retract it. I wonder if this one is best addressed through the process of the new housing study. You know, is making sure we're bringing in a broad cross section of stakeholders, making sure we're having citizens, hearing from practitioners, hearing from policymakers, is that, you know, and then broadly sharing all of the results of those studies. You know, because we're planning on, if we get the funding, doing an individual chapter for each jurisdiction. Because I think one of the questions that I have with this one is the first bullet. Is there actually a shared regional vision for housing?
Well, based on what you just said, it's not.
It's calibrating.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a tough one.
Right, and we may have a shared vision that is way up here, that everybody should have safe housing, right? We want all of our citizens housed, it may be here. But what that means, the role of the jurisdictions are, I think, are vastly different. And so I think this one can be addressed through communications related to that study. But I'm certainly very open for that on that.
Not necessarily the role, but the role that they want to have. What they think they're.
Well, to your point, I mean, the housing summit, right, assuming that's going forward, is going to be the best way to get information out there. And I think you're right. You need to tell a positive story, but it needs to be backed up with data. Right? I mean, and that's what happens so many times. Yeah, I mean, you can't see it on the street. Well, what about affordable housing? Well, we need more, right? I mean, I live with someone, then you go to build it, but not right here beside mine. Right? I mean, that's what we run into. So, you know, the more that information can be shared with, you know, people like Ned, I'm not picking on Ned, but in his position in the various counties, so they really understand, well, this is a good thing, right? How can you be against it? If it's positive, it's fiscally positive, it helps your people to live there, that's the story, to make it almost so they can't be against.
The best explanation back to this I ever heard was from Jesse in Nelson County. At the time when we did the presentation, I think the number was a little over 400,000. And he immediately interrupted and started talking to the board members and said, you know, so and so, you realize the person who works at your shop can't afford this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make it personal. And he made it very personal, and that's when the light bulb, I think, went on. So making it personal matters, I think.
And to echo what you said, it is about data, but it's also about local. Right, local data, because we do a lot of regional planning and we can talk regional all day long, but Louisa wants to hear specific to Louisa what the impacts of their decisions are. You know, not like how it's going to affect all of these other surrounding countries, not that they are not committed to being, you know, a part of a very successful region, that's not my point. But you know, to the focus groups in the study, like making sure we're balancing that data with what you said, the human story of people participating in focus groups and sharing what it means for them within their.
Well, a shout out to staff on the summit, we're doing a great job, but the goal is to kind of tell stories, and I'm happy to be the chair of the Piedmont Cleveland Land Trust, and we are now getting ready to buy our first unit in Columbus Circle. Just signed a contract as we were sitting there, that we're gonna be buying from Stanley Martin and then selling something to 100,000. That's trying to get that 60% AMI. That'll be our fourth one in Willamette County that we've done in the last 4 or 5 months. Telling some good stories.
Well, I certainly think on the way to getting to a shared regional vision, but to your point about the economic report. But yeah, you can't, if it says that it's positive, you can't really deny that. And then
We can deny it.
you can deny it. And, I mean, these days you just make up whatever the hell you want, and nobody fact checks you, you just get away with it. But electives can't be, shouldn't be. Assimilate or which I appreciate why Jesse talks about this the way he does in Nelson. Can't talk about affordable housing as if it's just new people coming into the area. It's not your growth. I think something that's real detrimental. That growth is usually what helps the economic activity. So I think putting that information out there that makes it more difficult to just, I mean, you can't stop anybody from just pulling whatever they want to say out of the air, maybe I'll do the polite version of that. But if everybody else in the room is kind of going, wait, and buys into the facts, so it just starts to undermine that sound.
Yeah, and a lot of the facts, what I've seen when I've done presentations, is when you put salaries up. And then you list who these people are, right, maybe we did that with man, and then, you know, and then you look at various people and all of a sudden they will look in the eye, right?
That's literally what Jesse.
Right, yeah, absolutely, and I mean, again, I can tell stories all day, but I have people can stand right there and say, we're opposed to these kind of people living here, and then I look over and I'm going, you make less than the people that are gonna be living, you know what I'm saying, it's just, but there are people that live there, and it's usually someone who's lived there all their life, that's what usually happens.
All right, I think we got some clarity on some of that.
Pardon me while I have technical difficulties. We are. Goal 4, create a sustainable infrastructure for the RHP to support the region's affordable housing goals. First, we had as a strategy, revise bylaws and membership to encourage diverse and dynamic participation. We've done a number of revisions to the bylaws this year. There are additional revisions to consider later in this agenda. ensure diverse funding streams with a focus on sustained investment from stakeholders. TJPDC staff does apply for grants related to affordable housing to fill funding gaps such as for the Housing Summit and the Regional Housing Study. I think there are opportunities here that we're not utilizing.
And I think this one, you know, is an unfinished conversation because 2 years ago, all members of the RHP, except for citizens or people representing low-income citizens, were contributing to the TJPDC. We then put that on hold in order to do this review of bylaws, review of the fee structure. And at this point, the only direct contributors are now the local governments. So we're not having contributions from either nonprofits, private sector, developers, all of that. And so I think that's something that we want to go back and look at, because 2 years ago, the RHP's budget was closer to 74,000, I believe, and now it's back to the 50. It's that base local government funding. So I think that just begs a conversation of what is the willingness, interest, what are the right amounts to be asking for as contributions from willing partners.
And we're doing an executive committee meeting in November. Is that the plan, or are we skipping November?
I had thought we were skipping it, but we could have one.
I don't know if it, because November, December is always a weird time, but
Yes.
maybe we put it on for the first executive committee meeting in 25, so that before the next fiscal year. Because we did work on this, we had numbers, we had suggestions.
Yeah.
There are different personalities around the table, so maybe that first executive committee meeting, we bring that information back so that everybody can be refreshed on it. And then we need to take it to the partnership, and here you gotta make a decision.
Because what
Because
we're
the 50
talking,
grand is gonna become less and less because the rates are higher.
Yep.
So we're,
Well, the pullouts are, you know, if we continue to have a vista that comes off the top, if we
Yeah.
continue to fund, you know, those are not.
it's not getting us as far as it did 3 when we first opened.
what we're talking about is we need more capital so we can have more staff time.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you almost have to look at it smartly. You all need to come up with the reasons why someone should join,
Absolutely.
right? So, I mean, internally, you all need to really think about that you hand out, hey, we need your support, here's why, here's how it benefits you and the localities or whatever. Because if not, there is, just asking for money, right?
And I think there are voting partnership members that are expecting to and willing to contribute. It just hasn't been really
No
clear to
doubt.
say, what is the amount, you know, and
Right.
what do you get for that amount?
Then you gotta ask.
Right.
Right, I mean, we'll say no, they say no, right? Just the way it is.
It's funny how that works.
I've said no to Keith a long time.
You're not the only one.
I was gonna say, we're all sitting around the same table here.
You're not the only one.
And the last strategy here is recruit, equip, and retain staff for capacity to support RHP strategic goals. We currently have our housing team fully staffed. But in order to retain staff, we need to pay them well, and that includes making sure that we have funding in the RHP budget.
Well, number 2 will certainly hit 3.
Any further discussion on this?
Is that the last goal?
It is the last goal.
So,
You guys made it.
Oh, Kim's also got a point. Go
Oh.
Keith and then Kim.
no, I'll let Kim go first.
Kim, go
She's
ahead.
probably gonna say what I'm thinking.
Maybe not, but thanks, Keith. Who all is going to the governor's housing conference? Is everybody from?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Okay. No, I was just thinking if most of the people were in the room, we can have a informal, brainstorming session there while we're discussing a lot of the topics that are being discussed at the conference.
I'll have to relook at the agenda. I wasn't too impressed with it when I saw it last time, so.
Yeah.
So. All right,
Did you have a point?
I did. Now remembering is the key part. So Ruth,
Yes,
if I'm hearing this right, we've got only a small amount of time, only a small amount of budget. We've got a lot of bullet points.
we do. A bunch of this is going to be pushed into fiscal year 26.
Got it. So of those, what do you think you can get accomplished? I don't think I need an answer now, but that might be something that
I hadn't planned to show you this slide, but
I'll shut up now.
the AmeriCorps Vista, Caden, is currently working on that grant library that I mentioned. He's doing support for the summit and he's currently doing communications for the RHP. We also are working on the housing study, the biannual housing summit. And we held discussion groups by topic and it sounded like there was interest in continuing to do that and possibly in the spring. So I put that on this list as well. Other than that, really what we're doing is providing staffing for meetings and making sure that we're sending folks to appropriate training.
So what I'm hearing, unless we come up with a substantial amount of money, that's what we're tackling.
That's exactly right for
Yeah, I
the
would
through
say the bullet I
June.
would add to this is diversifying net revenue. It's really working this year to secure additional funding for future fiscal years.
Yeah, that's fair. In the,
Is that additional bullet there?
it should be an additional bullet. In the financial tracking sheet that I shared with you all in the packet, there is a line item for staff time to apply for grants, and that does have hours associated with it still. Other questions?
I think for the next summit,
Yes.
task it for this summit, but for the next summit, the summit needs to be turned into a profit maker. Because it's breaking even and we're sharing information, but honestly, when you do those things, it should. If you do it, you should be able to clear your costs and then bring something in.
At least put it into a bank account for the following.
So you're charging the code.
Well, so the last summit, we did not break even.
Why not?
And this one, we don't yet have the commitment to break
I'm
even.
aware.
And you're saying we need to reverse that. We need to make it so it does make money.
It shouldn't just, the goal shouldn't be to break even. The goal should be to bring some money into the work.
That would be wonderful to be able to program those funds for the work of the RHP.
And we're not talking like millions of dollars here. $10,000 a fifth of our budget. So if we were able to get one big, if the costs get met and then one additional sponsor gives it a $5,000 or $10,000 line.
But not to push back, but the struggle on that is if I'm giving you $10,000 for a summit, that's where I want my money to go to, right? And not go someplace else. So, but it could be for the following summit kind of thing. If it gets diverted from the purpose of it, we could lose some future spots.
That's why I was saying this summit, like if it's that you're not just, you're giving to a summit and the effort and the objectives behind, but the ultimate goal is to also support the organization and the work they're doing year round. I think that if it's what's in the pitch, right? How much are we short for well, we'll wait till it's up there.
All right. Other questions about the work program for the remainder of this fiscal year and rolling into next year? Great. Thank you all for
Thank you
talking.
for hanging on and keeping it straight. I know it's difficult, so thanks.
I appreciate it.
And then the host site for year 3.
Yeah, so part of my thinking about whether we want to be a host site for the VISTA program again next year, really it's dependent on what of those strategies for the strategic plan we want to go after, because a lot of those hours are actually done by the VISTA. So it looks to me like we still have a number of things that would be useful to have a VISTA work on. And so we would want to consider being a host site again, but that has the implication of the host site fee of $9,000 coming straight off the top of the budget for next year.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that the 9,000's been ill spent or not.
Oh, no, not at all.
Leveraging a full-time person for 9,000.
Been wonderful.
All right, do you need any other comments on that?
No.
So that will take us to old business, and there were some bylaws changes related to membership and attendance in the packet.
Mhm.
This stems from. What, two partnership meeting, full partnership, this is back to the June meeting, if I remember correct.
Yeah, we talked about it. I don't think we talked about it at the full partnership meeting extensive. Well, we talked about it a little bit.
We didn't have it ready to roll by September.
No. So in your packet, or if you want a hard copy, I've got hard copies. I took a stab at reorganizing this, Article 3, first couple sections. Does anyone need a copy? Everyone needs a copy.
It's in the package. I got it.
Anything, thanks.
I got it there, but
So I reorganized the members of the RHP by whether they're appointed by the TJPDC Commission or they're members appointed by an external organization or by their role. So that's why you see some green strikeouts, is because they've just been moved. They're not completely removed from the document. And part of my reasoning for doing that is there was this question that we talked extensively about of whether when someone is appointed to the RHP, are they appointed as an individual, as a person, or are they appointed as a representative of their organization? If that role is changed or that person leaves the organization, someone else is in that role, is that person now automatically an RHP member, or do they need to be appointed? So in attempting to help clarify that, I added some language here. That the voting members appointed by an external organization or role are appointed as representatives of their organization or role, not as individuals. Changes at the organization may necessitate a change of representative on the partnership. When such change occurs, the organization may notify the RHP of the new representative for their organization. A formal appointment is not required. So that really is saying that any person in one of these spots is just being appointed by their organization. Their organization, if they have a change on their end, they just notify us and the new person automatically is the member. Whereas the folks in the TJPDC appointed slots are all needing to be reappointed by the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. And I think that makes a lot of sense, but we might want to consider, say, like the developer representative being, or not the developer, the builder representative being appointed by the builder professional organization instead of by the TJPDC, to have a third party do that appointment. I don't know that there are any others that would make a lot of sense to do that way, but I wanted to throw that out for you all to consider.
So I'm looking at the Town Builders Association website right now, so you're saying is they will pick the president or whoever they want.
Whoever they want, yep.
And the original member in this role was because he was the president
Yes,
of
exactly.
the Home Builders at the time.
Which we need to fill that slot.
Yes. So that was just my thoughts on that. I also added some additional language about what happens when someone makes that request to join, how we should consider that request. Specifically, individuals and organizations will make their request for membership in writing to the chair of the partnership. The chair will inform the executive committee of such requests. The executive committee will vet and consider recommending the request for approval by the full partnership. The full partnership will consider membership requests as recommended by the executive committee at their meeting. The number of organizations that can be approved by membership request, in addition to the list above, is limited to 5. Please feel free to change that. There is no cap for individuals representing the 4th pillar, defined for this purpose as a beneficiary of an affordable housing program, to be approved by membership request. So that still could allow the partnership to be very large if there are a lot of individuals with lived experience who really wanted to be a part of the partnership. I just don't see that being a problem. We might want to consider 5 as maybe not the right number. I was going through who we had added to the partnership since the first change allowing membership by petition. We actually have 4 folks who have been added, so who are representing an organization. So I think maybe we want to limit that to something higher than 5, so there'd only be 1 slot left. Based on some other conversations about folks that we haven't seen at a partnership meeting in quite a while, I added regular attendance at partnership and committee meetings is expected for all voting members. Should a voting member miss more than 2 consecutive meetings or 3 meetings in a fiscal year, the chair shall notify the member and the appointing body of the unsatisfactory attendance of the voting member. And then also for this bit about alternates, I added in the attendance of the designated alternate at a meeting shall be recognized as attendance at the meeting for the purposes of quorum voting and unsatisfactory attendance notifications. So if your alternate comes to the meeting, you don't need to worry about attendance.
But at the last full partnership meeting, we had 3 from the elected bodies that did not attend, and those elected bodies don't have alternates named. So it was a double up.
Yeah,
But since they don't have alternates appointed, there's no backup in the event that
They can't
somebody
attend.
does attend, but like Diantha should already be attending partnership meetings because she's the transit partnership. But she's also, well, now Mike Pruitt's our alternate, but it used to be that we made her the alternate because she should be here anyway if I was not able to be there. But it was originally designed that alternates should be named in the event that the appointed person can't attend with the alternate, so I'm gonna be doing when they appoint the like, so we do our organization meeting in January.
Right.
So the board appoints me to the partnership, and then this year they appointed Supervisor Pruitt as my alternate. And then he's that way for the next 12 months, so whenever the organizational meeting is in the elected bodies, they should be doing the appointment of the person, and then they should be named the alternate, and this isn't like we're doing something out of the ordinary. This is the same for other regional boards and things where an alternate is named at the time of the point.
what if you're not with the locality? Like, for example,
Mhm.
so part of my deal doing this, Greg had to be my alternate, I told him, because a lot of times I'm not in town. And so as long as we say that, like he called me the other day, he said, "Where are you gonna be in town for this meeting?" I said, "Yep, I'll be here till 3 o'clock anyway." And he said, "Fine." Yeah,
For the elected specifically, because originally it was designed that they wanted elected officials, not somebody else from the county coming. They also said planning commission officials, so I'm kind of speaking specifically to that, but everybody should have an alternate. I know Kim
right.
used to attend when Margaret couldn't attend, right? That was you, Kim, that was kind of Margaret's backup. So everybody's had their,
Sorry, yes.
but we can't have a full partnership meeting and then not have a quorum.
Right.
And we have folks attending remotely, and you can't, if you don't have the physical quorum, then they can't, that doesn't help. So there's just gonna be some cleanup attendance wise that needs to happen. I have to play police officer for a couple of places and hopefully have that wrapped up by the end of the year.
Do the suggested language changes meet your needs in terms of making sure that we know if someone's representing themselves or an organization, and for following up on attendance?
I thought this captured what the full partnership asked for back in June relative to process. And I'm happy with the language that's in there about the alternates, and the attendance follows TJPDC's attendance for the commission policy, right? The 2 meetings and then the chair gets notified. I think that originated at the commission. I mean, it's not word for word, but it follows.
Does the second clause of that match it? I just had.
The second clause is
Or 3 and.
the 3 in a fiscal year is not a part of the
It's
TJPDCs.
not exact.
It's not exact.
I mean, I'm not too worried.
But I
about it,
was-
But it follows the logic behind the TJPC attendance policy. You gotta go.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason I put 3 in a fiscal year is because for the partnership, there are only 4 meetings.
Oh, yeah, you should vote on. the
Oh.
bylaws.
You want, do you want to recommend them?
Everybody objected. So, oh, well, we don't have to vote on it, we just have to make it for the partnership.
Yep. Yeah, if you want to recommend it to the partnership, I'll take it.
But if there's no objection, then we're gonna roll this out in December, which is a virtual.
Yep.
Meeting. Well,
Thank you.
thanks, Will. Is there anything else on the bylaws? No.
No.
We'll find out. Yeah. But we can go to staff updates.
Regina, I didn't ask you, but could you give a really quick update on the housing study and summit?
Which one?
On the housing study and the
Oh,
summit?
both. Okay, yes, so the summit, things are rolling forward, we've got lots of good speakers, lots of good things planned. Venues secured, it will be at the Omni on March 13th, I think that was finalized the last time I
It
spoke
was.
to you guys. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to remember what the last details were. To get to your question, Ned, it's about a budget of about 94,000 and we have about 20,000 left to raise. However, that I'm already including committed sponsorships that haven't yet been paid, so it's possible that it would be a little bit higher than 20,000 remaining to be secured.
You said 20 grand remaining if commitments come through.
Yes,
For the summit.
for the summit.
Well, that's great news because we're already ahead where we were for the last one. So good to hear.
We are ahead. Yeah. So yeah, I think those are the key points for the summit. As far as the study, we are applying with Albemarle County, or technically they're applying on behalf of us for CDBG funding from DHCD. So we've got the materials with them mostly ready to go. That's due pretty soon. And Virginia Housing, also we're applying for funding from them, that is underway as well. And the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle have committed funding to the study. Nelson County also committed funding. We have yet to secure funding from Louisa Green and Flavanna. At the Green Board of Supervisors meeting, they wanted to wait and see how much grant funding comes in before committing funding. So that's where that's. I'm sorry?
That means in a lot of cases, we ask for a not to exceed amount. We're asking you for up to 10,000, depending on all other funding sources that come in. Since it's a mid-year budget request, they want to know the exact amount. So we're waiting to see what all the other commitments are, so we can go to them and say, we need exactly this much.
No, I meant the grant thing. They said they were waiting on grant funding.
Waiting to see what all other sources of funding were secured. To
Oh,
see if we're
okay.
gonna be asking them for 9,200 or 10,000 exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Is that
good
all?
progress.
Do you have your two $10,000 sponsors for the video or the cocktail?
The cocktail hour has already gone to specialized insurance, and then, I'm sorry?
So that's great news.
Yes, the video, however, no, we do not have a $10,000 exclusive video sponsor.
I'm working on a couple, can we split that up, different, like, $5,000?
I don't really know what video sponsor means, but.
So I'm sorry, I'll let you finish. It's okay.
Thanks.
And I interrupted your question, so.
Trying to interrupt. I interrupted your-
David's question answered first. Directly yes to the other.
As far as the video, so that just means it costs a fair amount to do AV, and then it was an additional amount to have them film the breakout sessions that we could then share. So the idea is that the exclusive sponsor of that portion would then have their logo on all videos and things like that. I think the idea of breaking it into two, it is a possibility we could think about. I think that we would just have to look at a few other sponsors have already given $5,000, so. I don't know, we would just have to
Okay.
think that through of, you know,
The
why
few
are
people I'm
some
talking to.
5,000 donors getting a special?
A couple people,
Get half of your name on credit.
a couple organizations I'm talking to, and individuals, the 10 is just a little too high.
Yeah.
But they like the idea, and then so we're just trying to figure out how we can slice it up a little bit.
I think we can navigate that.
I think
I'll
we
see
can
what-
still do it as a 10,000, but it's like partner
Yeah,
sponsorships for that
Let me-
large video.
A lot of it depends on how these folks' years end.
Yeah.
So that's, we won't really know that till the beginning.
yeah, let's keep talking about
And then the last thing on the TJPDC staff updates is the virtual meeting schedule. We talked at the last full partnership meeting about the new TJPDC electronic participation and remote meeting policy and the new ability to meet 50% of the meetings virtual, no two consecutive virtual though. So I put together this schedule that I'm not sharing my screen, but that would be helpful. Just outlining for the rest of fiscal year. Virtual meeting in December for the full partnership, then virtual again in June. And those align nicely with people's scheduled travel. And then for the executive committee, we did virtual in July. And then we'll do virtual again in January, assuming that meets everyone's expectations.
And we have cut back the
Number of meetings for the executive
number of
committee.
meetings for the executive. Don't feel like monthly there's enough for us to get into, so if we do one, then you have a partnership meeting. If we ever feel like there's extra that we have to do, we can call a special meeting. That helps on budget too. Cool. But any objection to that? We haven't really discussed that in a while. It's a executive committee meeting about reducing the number of meetings.
I mean, it might make more sense to not schedule any of the executive committee meetings as virtual. Just in case we wanted to have special meetings that were virtual, because we still are not allowed to have two consecutive.
This executive committee meeting cannot have two of its meetings virtual, but it can have a virtual meeting consecutive to the full partnership. Because this is considered separate advisory body to
Right.
the RHP.
But I'm just thinking like,
If something
Right now-
comes up, it would have to be in person.
it would have to be in person. So right now, we're having an in-person meeting here in October. And we're planning to have one in January that's virtual. If we wanted to have one between the January and April meetings, that would have to be in person, not virtual.
That's, I'd rather have it out there in advance, so people know what's virtual, it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll just live with the rules when the state that comes up.
Right.
Sorry, state says you have to be here in person.
All right, that's it for the staff updates.
Awesome. Current state of the local housing market.
Weird.
Yeah. And our economic report that we got. What do they have out now? The median house price was $571. But I mean, they're pretty much what snapshot of time they record that data from.
Yeah, so I got 540. So you don't mind? I'll jump in there.
Yeah.
So would you mind? Oh, no, this one.
This one?
Yeah, thank you. So what you guys are looking at, and I have copies for everybody, if you would like copies of it. So what that is this is the top line is the sales volume, the bottom line is the actual dollar amount. So this information is both with car, so this is my MLS that we get to use. This is all property types, which is single family, attached, detached, condos, includes new construction. So this is just a big picture. I've got another one. It's rather interesting. we're roughly 17% in volume, less than when we were back in 2016. My suspicion is by the end of this year, that number gonna be closer to 20, maybe around 20%. But if you take a look at the bottom line, we are 43% higher in first 9 months of 2024 versus the first 9 months of 26. And what I call the unicorn years, which is 20 through 21, just to pick 21, we're 22% higher than that. So bottom line is, volume is dropping, prices are going up. Nobody here should be too surprised about that. And you wouldn't mind. Okay, so I guess the other slide is about volume for jurisdiction, but this is more on price. So this is year over year. The orange is 23. The red is 24. Albemarle County is up. This is same 9 months compared to the same 9 months. Is up 7.5%. City of Charlottesville 16%. My home county is actually flat, right around 1%. Trying to figure out why that is. We're at 1%. Greene County is up 5.5%. Louisa County is up 3%. And the big, one of the other larger winners is Nelson County. That is up to 10%. So prices are going up. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here. So I think everybody kind of knows it. And if you want to take a look at the slide number A real quick, it's just a year over year volume. Albemarle County is down 11.5%. City of Charlottesville stayed flat, which is rather interesting. It stayed flat year over year in sales, but it's up 16% in sales price. Savannah's down around 20%. So our sales volume in Savannah County is down, but our prices are staying flat. Greene County, you're up. You're one of the winners. You're up 13.5%, and you are up 5%. So Greene County's kind of the rock star at the moment as far as sales volume and sales price. Louisa County's up about 6%, and the sales volume, I just called it flat, and Nelson County's kind of flat, up 10%.
Is this all housing, new construction and resale? I'm curious that in Greene County, that increase, how much of that is new construction
little.
based on the amount of, oh, really?
Yeah, very little. You only have about 48 new construction transactions up at this point. You're about ready to get a zillion. We just came from a meeting talking
Okay,
about that.
fascinating.
Yeah, so it's rather interesting. I just came from a meeting talking about your water over there in Greene County. You're averaging somewhere about between the low 40s to the high 40s new construction year over year. Next year, that number is going to jump to 250. So all the big players are projecting 50 to 75 new units a year. So unless they triple their water connection fees, and then nothing will happen. I'd love to answer any questions. I mean, I was hoping to try to get each jurisdiction up to 9 months. I've got it up to 8 months if somebody's interested, but I'll be more than happy to do that. Bottom line, price is going up. It doesn't make sense. Volume is going down and price is going up, which is usually not the case. Usually when volume is going down, prices stabilize or kind of follow it. So from my perspective, this I have a slide from something else, but I found it interesting. In Albemarle County, your single family attached new construction outpaced your existing homes year over year substantially, which means all the projects that were in the pipeline got built, got bought. You're about ready to come to a standstill, and Greene County is going to be the pick up the difference on attached product. Any questions?
And just the comment that 5 of the 6 are up over 400 now, 5 of the 6 counties in this region.
Mhm.
And if I spent a bunch more time, I broke it out for single family attached and attached, that number is even substantially higher. And the reason I don't do it is because Albemarle County at the moment is the only one that really produces attached products. Like I said, Green is about ready to knock it out of the ballpark.
Washington Post published a really interesting article with an interactive map, and the Charlottesville area had a 34% increase in rent in the last 35 years. So,
Rent's an interesting animal. Nationwide, it's going down. Except for
This area is
except for here.
really difficult.
And it's actually going to get worse
Mhm.
because unless you have cash to develop and build apartments, the money nationwide for apartments dried up. You can't borrow money for it because nationwide it's overbuilt, multifamily's overbuilt. And if I've had 3 or 4 lenders that I used to borrow a lot of commercial money from say, unless it's 3 units and under, if it's over 3 units, we're not gonna lend you money.
Wow.
So you're gonna find our rent's gonna go up. Because I don't think you're gonna see the market producing a lot more. That's the reason I was asking William how's his units doing out in Bulldown County. But nationwide, we're overbuilding multifamily.
That is really interesting, because a lot of things I've read say that. In the last 30 years, there was just a really lack of building of multifamily.
And then, the last 4 to 6 years, it was just a super ramp up. Everybody was approving them. This is nationwide.
Yeah.
Everybody was approving. I just came from a summit out in Phoenix at 115 degrees. That's what we kind of talked about. And you follow the money. When the lenders stop lending money to it, then you know something is up.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all I had, sir.
Thank you. I was just trying to find if I could see what this report said, the rent drop in our was.
The problem with rent is, and we talked about this, Ruth talked about it. Sales are easy because it's all kind of quantified or to one area to look at. Rents are all over the map and it's, William has his own system, CBRE has their own, there's no unified place where you can start crunching a lot of data, so rent data seems to be all over the map. Sale and for sale stuff is simple, right, it's all through.
Well, the economic report that we received for Albemarle basically tells us a lot of things we know. Albemarle is a wealthy county, this region and this area is a wealthy area. Poverty levels have dropped. But what you read in the report with, of course, housing prices going up, rent going up, even wage growth stronger than what it was before. And you have poverty level, or I'm sorry, wages actually was kind of bottoming or coming down a little bit. The wealth is not the wealth is not contingent on salaries and wages. And if poverty levels are dropping and everything else is increasing, then it's not because we've lifted everybody's ship, they're just left, they can't live here anymore.
Or until then, or Green, or Louise.
Yeah, they're gone. I mean, that's what that means. If your poverty levels dropped, then they're not, it can only mean we made them richer or they're gone. They're
Yeah,
not. The
they're
equations are gone.
displaced. Yes, they're in the battle, or they're in Buckingham.
Even though my home county Buckingham, I haven't put on here, is actually growing
Mhm.
rapidly. As far as, even though our number, Flamanna County's number is flat, we're still at 356. And I can tell you as a chair of land trust, in order to hit right now with the interest rates, in order to hit 80% AMI, your sale price really can't go over 250. So we're round numbers, 100 grand over
Yeah,
just to hit 80%.
and the AMI is already so incredibly high. Or has grown so much, so. I don't know.
Which I have in the news, but that's the news.
All right, so we're at the round table. Have anything else to share?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Emily, anything to share
Nothing
today?
else? I don't think so.
Kim, any items to share?
Sorry, I wasn't prepared with the unmute. No, I don't think there's anything new. Ruth, you had asked me about the data aspect. Is there something you wanted me to cover on that?
Let me,
Well, this came up during your presentation the last time, like, it was like an obstacle or something that I thought, oh, is that? If I understood that more, that might be something we bring forward as an initiative to try to work on.
Yeah, it's difficult to find good data, and Davy Sell and I talked about this quite a bit because she was tasked with finding data and she couldn't, specific to the rural areas. For a lot of different reasons. So homeless, they're not easily accessible. They're literally back in the woods or in somebody's shed, right? They're not sleeping on a park bench. They're not visible to the community. We had difficulty in accumulating data in an impactful way. For example, both Louisa and Fluvanna County median home age is 26 years old. But we knew we had really aging housing in Bumpus or Mineral or Gordonsville, Columbia, but there was nothing that we could pinpoint. Now we were able to pinpoint for Fork Union. It was a large enough area and was done by zip code that it showed a median home age of 70 years old. So when the median home age for Fluvanna County overall is 26 and you have a pocket where the median home age is 70, you're able to better illustrate the dynamics in that area of poverty, and the difficulties that need to be overcome with aging housing. Then you layer that with lower income levels, a higher level of population of the elderly in those pockets, but it's difficult in order to access funding to find that data and bring it forth. It's a little bit easier to do in some of the urban areas. We also had sort of a different dynamic. The average household size was about 2.5 people, not even quite 3. And yet we don't have 1-bedroom units. We don't have 2-bedroom units. We don't have apartments typically. So there's a lack of available smaller units. And the cost is pretty equivalent for those because there is an infrastructure. You still need a septic system. You need a well. You need road infrastructure. So those things aren't often in place in the rural areas. So I don't know if those were the types of data points you were talking about, Ruth, or if you had something else more specific in mind.
no, that was exactly what I was hoping to get.
Okay, good. Good. Yeah. And I'm glad to help. That's where I think the housing study would be very helpful to the rural communities. And that may be something that you use in your presentation to have Fluvanna and Louisa contribute in Greene County and Nelson. Let them know that, it's just more difficult to accumulate this data. So if we have better tools to accumulate it, we can perhaps get access to more grants, different funding options. We can it's difficult to prove that there's a problem. We know it, we see it, we experience it, but we started looking because of different things than data points. We provide the repair programs in our areas, which really pinpointed the problems to us, but they are not necessarily data points that come up in any studies or anything accumulated. They don't show up in the census data.
It's one that what I was hearing and trying to figure out, well, how to help solve that. And maybe we continue to brainstorm that and have some additional conversations to see. Is the repair data getting housed somewhere? Maybe put it in that way?
I have my own, we have some excellent data from what we have provided in repairs. For example, for the 2 counties, what we were able to provide last year was 100 projects at $400,000, right? I can tell you how many roofs we did, how many HVAC units, how many wells and septic and plumbing and electric. What we don't have are a lot of the projects we're not able to cover. Flooring is a huge problem. We do not tend to take care of flooring because of the compromised joists under the houses. So it dramatically increases the cost of the rehab project. And if we were able to access more funding, certainly something we would have more data on because we would be doing it often. Siding, windows, drywall repairs, insulation in homes. But they tell a story. I think we have a good 10 years of really strong data pointing to the needs and the economic bracket that we are fitting into that, because we do service people under 50% AMI for those projects. But in relation to the total population, it may not be a great statistic because it's not showing everyone who fits into that category. It's just showing those people we serviced.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Might just be another topic or a continued conversation.
Yeah. I mean, for us, a huge impact has been the repairs. And if we could expand on that, that does help with housing. It doesn't bring new units in, but it preserves units, prevents people from becoming homeless. There's a huge benefit to the community, and that may be something that's more beneficial to some of the rural communities. They may have more interest in that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I guess the only thing I share from Albemarle is that 2 meetings ago, we had a program going where we were places that were, it was all defined. I won't go into all the parameters, but basically folks who had failing septic systems, helping them get on public. These are folks in the development area. There's more septic than you would think in our development area, older homes, older neighborhoods. Who, if they qualified, it allowed them to get connected in the infrastructure to get them on public sewer and water. So that program kind of hit a point where there was nobody else, whether they knew it or not, that could be serviced, and money was sitting. So the supervisors basically kind of did a reroute, and we continued with like 150 was still going to that sewer program for a couple of families still that needed it. I think about 130, 140 got rerouted to the emergency assistance fund. To beef that up a little bit, and then another 100 was going to the homeless, to already efforts in place for year-round emergency low barrier shelter. This additional money's got, and then the sewer program is going to come back to us as a budget initiative, because that's a program that seems to be one that should be ongoing. Because it seems like you're only going to be helping 2 to 6 in a year. And there's always going to probably be need for that for a while. So I think that's something the board's taking up, is not just ARPA leftover funds that be spent, but that's an ongoing program. So it kind of tied into what we just talked about. I know it was important for the year-round homeless shelter. I know as part of the low barrier year-round homeless shelter. And then Premier Circle is going to be doing a grand opening next week. Support Works, is that the new name? So that's next Wednesday, I think they're doing an opening, so that project's moving on. Great. Well, that's it.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor and give me a call? I'll call you this afternoon. We've got a little land trust conversation real quick over at Colonial Circle. We've got a $350,000 single level, 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, 1,500 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 baths. We're buying it from Stanley at $350. They're attaching a 4.75 30-year FHA loan to it, plus they're paying closing costs. We've got about $50,000 to $60,000 worth of subsidy we can contribute to it. Do you have any, and I want to keep this, we'd like to keep this from 55 and over, some sort of age targeted. Do you guys have any capital to share on that, to be part of it? Looking for another 50, 60 grand.
Because of the 2 major projects that we're working on right now in Fluvanna and Louisa, I am doubtful.
Got it. That answers my question. I'll go find it someplace else. Thank you.
Sorry.
What do you have in your pocket?
American Express card.
All right, thank you. Well, appreciate everyone today and the work we did, and we will, without objection, stand adjourned. The next meeting for us as an executive committee will be in January 22nd. That will be virtual. And the RHP meeting will be,
December 18th,
the full
virtual.
partnership will also be virtual. Just throwing that note out.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.